Welcome to the Side Hustlers Society podcast, the place where you can find out more about the hustles that are best for you. And of course, make more money in the process. Elijah has been in the gig economy and freelance space for over 8 years and has done over 4,000 deliveries on Uber Eats. Has several video editing clients, many properties on Airbnb, runs multiple YouTube channels, and is the author of the best-selling book, The Anatomy of Financial Success. It's his mission to empower people with the tools needed to be successful. Now, welcome your host, the king of the side hustles, Elijah Bilel.
What's up, everyone? This is your host, Elijah, and we're back with another podcast from the Side Hustlers Society. It's been a little bit of an interval between our last episode and now. That's because I've been setting up some stuff behind the scenes to give y'all a better experience. Maybe I'll cover that in another show, behind the scenes stuff, but just know that big things are coming. But in this show, we're going to be rocking solo, and we're going to be covering 5 lead sources that I personally think are underrated in the self-employment world, because we've talked about lead generation this whole season. We've also talked about the different forms of marketing, whether it be outbound marketing, inbound marketing, online marketing, offline marketing. So I'm not going to retread that, but most of these are going to fall under what we would like to call outbound offline marketing, which is probably the source of marketing that I personally think that most people are afraid to do, but probably holds the biggest results for you, because you can talk to someone in person, build the rapport, let them know what you do, and oftentimes that can result in a sale, whether it be coming from them directly or from a friend or family member, or coming down the line simply because they met you in person. But we're going to do something different for this list of leads, because we talked about how to use the grip formula, and that's awesome, but there are scenarios in y'all's lives that y'all are not actually realizing are good lead sources, and it could be costing you money. And that is, anytime you interact with people on a regular basis, meaning people that you're seeing on a regular basis and you're paying for their services, these people should know about your trade, your skill, or your business. And if we're going to be blunt, they should be contributing to leads for you in some form or fashion. It only makes sense because you're spending money with them, right? So we're going to start this off by just kind of setting the scene. We're going to take your barber, for instance. This is a good example. And this is and for the ladies, your beautician, or basically whoever you're using, whether you're going to a beautician to take care of your hair, or you're getting your hair cut like me with a barber. Because I've been on both sides of the spectrum. Some of y'all have been following me online long enough. Y'all remember I used to have locks. So in that case, I was going to a beautician. But I digress. This is a person that you're spending money with on a regular basis, right? And all of a sudden, you start a new business. You become a video editor. You start mowing lawns, graphic designer. You get plenty of examples. Well, I would think that you're probably going to drop that in the conversation alone, because the nature of that service is they kind of function as a therapist. So you always talk about what's going on in your life, or at least that's how it goes for normal people. For me, I don't have that luxury, because most of my barbers and beauticians throughout the years, it's kind of the opposite. They always want to dump what's going on me and not the other way around. Put in the comments, do y'all experience that, where the relationship is reversed? I'm not saying it's 100% reversed. Sometimes we talk about me, but a lot of times they want to talk about what's going on in their lives, which is kind of interesting. But regardless, there is some talk about what's going on in your life. And I would think you would share that, hey, you're thinking about starting a business or doing this service. Then you talk about a little about the process of doing it, and eventually you get certified or you get your first few clients or whatever it is. They should actually know about your business. So if they don't know about your business, you should make it known just in a regular discussion way. But after a while, it never hurts to directly ask them if they know someone that may need your service, especially when you've been a little established, like you've gotten your first 3 to 5 clients, so you're not like just fresh off the boat, so to speak. They should be receptive to doing just that. Or at the very least, you leaving your information with them, like let's say some business cards with the QR code that we talked about in the previous show. And that material can be just laying there, and someone who may need your service can just grab that, reach out to you. But do you think that it's going to reach out to you randomly? They're probably going to grab your card or your flyer or your catalog and then ask the barber beautician about, like, hey, so who is this? This is a chance for them to speak pretty good of you because you are a customer. And the chances of that person reaching out to you is higher because someone has personally vouched for you. And we just talked about a barber in this example, but we're going to give a few different examples to kind of illustrate that point. Because a barber actually is, I keep saying barber. Every time I say barber, realize it applies to a beautician too, if not more, because beauticians often have their own little like suits away from like the whole crowd. And that actually helps because someone will be more likely to notice the fly. Like barbershops, y'all know how barbershops set up. It's a bunch of booths and everyone's having a big discussion. So it actually works better with the beautician setup, to be honest. But I digress yet again. So the first one we're going to get into, the 5 underrated lead sources, if you will, is going to be restaurants. It's in particular restaurants you eat at on a regular basis, not just like some place that you just walked into and you just started eating. I mean, you can if you want, but the whole point of most of these is you don't actually have to use the grip formula. You can if you want to. And for those of y'all that are wondering what the hell am I talking about, what is the grip formula, check the second, it's either the second or third episode we did on this podcast where I cover social skills and developing influence, and we talk about the grip formula. But the whole point is you actually don't need to use a grip formula because you're spending money with these groups of people. The least they should be doing is hearing you out about your business and passing your information along to someone who may be able to benefit from you. So you don't have to use the grip formula. You can if you, at that point it's not even really necessary and it's just faster. So yeah, back to the restaurants. Assuming that you go to this restaurant on a regular basis, and I will be honest, the mom and pop restaurants are actually better for this because there's a good chance you can have some interactions with the owner or the manager there, but the manager there may actually be a family member of the owner. It's tightly knit community versus like you go to McDonald's, which I really hope that's not your favorite restaurant or you frequent to. You don't go there frequently, but opposed to going there and all you're bumping into is people who work there. They probably don't want to work there, and then there's a high turnover. And if you do build a rapport with this person, and the whole thing kind of goes out the window with these big franchises. I'm really talking about the more mom and pop places. Yeah. So I'll take restaurants in the Dallas-Fort Worth area is a good example, and I've actually done this before. Back when I was on the board of the Black Vegetarian Society of Texas, we were organizing this event called Meet Out. It's an event where people can come to the DeSoto Civic Center and learn more about a vegan lifestyle via speakers and presentations that have been held basically all day. And of course, there's other activities and vegan food available. Now we have flyers that we placed all over the place, but one prime location that would be great to place those flyers would be inside vegan restaurants. So I said that I would take the flyers and I would cover the Arlington, Grand Prairie, Euless, Hearst area when it comes to flyers and talking to the vegan business owners of the restaurants and asking them, hey, can we leave these flyers with you? So I'll use Love and Hut in Arlington, for example. And if you're in the DFW, I highly recommend you check them out. Great food. And if you want to see some pictures and what other people think about that restaurant, click the link that's on the screen. The Veggie Outers have actually been there. We're a group of people who go to vegan restaurants and review them. Little shout out to the Veggie Outers. But I went there and I talked to the staff there, and this is a tightly knit family owned business. And I talked to them about Meet Out, like, hey, this is what we got going on. Do you mind if I leave? It was like a stack of like 75 catalog flyers there. And they said, oh, yeah, go ahead and leave that there because obviously they're sympathetic to the vegan cause. If they're vegan and they also own a vegan restaurant and there are vegans coming in, they'll be interested in going to the event. I mean, what do you think that the result was? People saw the flyer, picked it up, and a lot of people came to the event because they saw that flyer on the desk where you go up to order your food at Loving Hut. Great example of what I'm talking about. Because that in itself, even though in that case it was a nonprofit, so it's not necessarily meant to make any money, it's still a lead generator. That same logic applies to your business, assuming you have the right promotional marketing material. Everyone can have a business card. I mean, watch a previous show where we talked about the business card, but there's business card, there's flyers. If you want to go the extra mile, there's also catalogs. To be honest, the cheapest version of this is probably going to be the business card. So just go with that if you're on a budget. But if things are really going well and you really want to expand your leads and you have the budget to justify it, maybe expand into making flyers and leaving those in core places at restaurants once you talk to the owner. Pretty simple, right? And this is something that makes sense to do because if you are going to them on a regular basis, you're patronizing them. It's only right that you let them know what you have going on and you leave your material at the restaurant. And you're probably going to be like, maybe 1% of people do this. So there's a good chance you'll be the only flyer or business card that's on the table for someone to see. You can start adding up very, very, very quickly. And be honest, when you leave this information with the restaurant, other people inside the business are going to start noticing the information. So you don't think they're going to look you up just for curiosity? Like the owner walks in and you talk to the manager or staff of the place like, hey, what is this? Oh, one of our customers left that. They're one of our regulars. They told us they started a business a little while back. It's been going good. If they could leave these business cards with us, we said yes because they are regular. Owner's gonna be like, okay, you're gonna grab one of them and look you up to make sure you're legit, which I'm assuming you are. You better be legit. But they see what's going on, and maybe they'll meet you in person one day and want to hear more about it. And they may have a contact or a customer to refer to you since you have been patronizing them on a regular basis. I'm not going to stay on the restaurants too long because I can get kind of passionate about this. It's tied to the veggie outers. And restaurants are awesome businesses. Hard to run though. I have friends who are restaurant owners, and I've heard some stories. It's not for me. I'd be an investor in one, but wouldn't want to own one. But my point is, restaurants are a conduit for a lot of people to come through there at once, and you need to tap into that market. And this is a very organic and natural way to do that. Moving on from restaurants, we're going to revisit one I already kind of went into example with for the beginning of the show, if you will, and that's the barber / beauty salon. Everything I said still applies, but one thing I want to expand on is this is going to be hard for some of y'all to do. Trust me, I get it. But you should have more than one barber or beautician. Why should you do that? Well, first of all, there's a practical reason. Your barber or beautician is going to go on vacation at some point. They might be gone for a few weeks. And who's going to cut your hair or do your hair then? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's happened to all of us at some point. Barber, beautician goes on vacation. It's like, if you're lucky, and if you're lucky, maybe the timing will work out. Like when I used to have locks, when my beautician would go on vacation or something, I managed to, and she gives everyone a heads up, but I managed to be like one of her last customers to get my locks done. And she wouldn't be back for like another 3 weeks. Or my locks would last exactly 3 weeks. So right when it's around the time for them to get done again, hey, guess what? She's back. But sometimes the timing might not work like that. Those slots might be taken, and what do? You end up having someone else cut your hair or do your hair anyway. So why not just go ahead and have that set up? Then it spares you the quote-unquote stress of having to find someone to do it. And let's just be honest. We want someone of quality to be cutting our hair or locking our hair or whatever. And that usually requires us to do some experimentation, right? Like, oh, I went to this person, but they kind of dropped the ball, or this person was just kind of average, or hey, this person was almost as good as my main beautician or barber. I'll use them as a backup barber or beautician. So I would just have that set up just for the peace of mind, if you're gonna be honest. But aside from that, everything I said about the barber and beautician applies to all of them, not just the one you're seeing. So if you're going to multiple barbers or beauticians, that means that everything I said is going to be times 2 or times 3. Now, I think maybe 2 is probably the magic number. You could push it and do 3 in terms of having like 3 barbers or beauticians. And you don't have to think of it as you keep alternating between each one. It's more so like you have the main barber that you're loyal to or beautician. And then the other ones you go to every now and then. Sometimes it's needed because your barber might be on vacation. But even not, maybe just once every 2 months, go to the other ones. And I would make sure that they're spread apart. Like, definitely not in the same salon because, come on, it's not expanding your options. But, like, I would make sure, like, I'll use some towns in my local area, for example. So if I had in some alternate reality, I lived in Hearst. Well, and my main barber's in Hearst. Well, there's a neighbor city called Euless. I would get another barber there. There's another neighbor city called Arlington. I would have a barber there. And every now and then I would pay the Euless and the Arlington barber visit, just so they remember who I am, etc. But I would still mainly be going to the barber in Hearst. That's how you handle that. But the thing is, each time you go to a different barber, that's another fresh set of leads that you can tap into just by having a relationship with the barber, but also just the people in the shop. I mean, these are very social environments. Oftentimes, what you do is going to come up anyway, as someone's waiting to get their hair braided or just chilling in the shop talking with everyone. It's probably going to come up anyway. So now you're talking to people in the main barbershop, but every now and then you go to the other one, and every now and then you go to the third one. And these are massive sources of lead generation because different crowds are coming through different shops. You see how you're naturally expanding your horizons? And we're not even talking about going up to strangers like in the produce section in Sprouts, meeting people that like, oh, well, what do I say? Anything like that. You're in the natural, organic, social environment where you can just talk to people and you can steer the conversation to what you do by using the grip formula. But aside from that, just having a relationship with barbers and beauticians who are basically part-time therapists, hearing people's problems. You don't think that some people aren't going to come with them with a problem that you may have the potential to solve? Very untapped source of lead gen, if you're in my opinion, or it's not talked about much. The people who do it, they see the value, but you don't really see much talk about it on the internet. We're going to change that. I'm probably going to clip this segment and call it the most underrated source of leads on the planet for business owners. But moving on from barbers and beauticians, because I did spend a lot of time on that, I just want y'all to see the value in it. We're going to go to people in the services industry in general. This isn't limited to like any one particular thing. Let's say you have a financial advisor. That's someone that would qualify or count under this, or someone who handles insurance, or you have like a caterer for events or an event planner. Like these are people that have services to offer. I mean, more or less, they're kind of going to fall under the same category as you. You're probably going to be a freelancer or someone who's self-employed or a blue-collar worker, except for you take jobs on your own. You're not working for someone. They have the same scenario as you. So if you're patronizing their business, you should at the very least be sharing what you do. Now, the difference between someone who offers a service and the first two is where the first two, it's more of a you need to be supporting them on a regular basis. Someone who is offering you a service and you're paying for that, that doesn't apply. They can just service you once, and that's good enough. You should be talking about what you do, etc. Pass out your business card. And if you keep doing the service or getting the service from them, I would actually be more direct in terms of, hey, so yeah, after y'all get done talking, so do you know anyone who actually needs the service of? I'll use myself for an example. Do you happen to know anyone, any clients, or maybe you need the service of video editing or video production? And every now and then, when you talk to them, providing you still are using the service, like if it's some kind of reoccurring service, a financial advisor is actually a good example. Uh, how recurring it is, it depends on what your financial goals are. It could be quarterly or it could be monthly. But if it's reoccurring, I would be asking them like, "Hey, do you know anyone who could, benefit my business?" And to be honest, if they don't start sending you leads within the next 3 or 4 times that you've interacted with them, I would consider getting someone else to do that service, because this is a streak that can be going both ways, or it really should be going both ways. Now, I'm not saying it has to literally be like tick for tack, but for every, I'll say 4 times you get their service, they should be sending you some leads that facilitates at least one sale for you. So like a 1 out of 4 kind of ratio. And if that's not happening, well, it means that they may not be referring you, or they just may not have any interest in helping you at all. They just want your money. And this doesn't include them doing the service, assuming they're doing the service right. I'm talking about in terms of helping you with your business and getting the word out. That's not someone I want to work with long term. So I would actually be looking to replace them, because this is actually pretty typical. It's very respectful. Someone who is spending money with you and you're a service provider, and they've asked this of you, you should be making a small effort to see if you can be business cupid and connect someone with that other person that may benefit from using their service. Yeah. So I would be looking to replace them. And this goes both ways too. Let's say someone comes to you and they've been paying for your service for a while and they need help with their business. I would say you're somewhat obligated to help them out too. So this isn't just a one-way street. Keep in mind, this should be reciprocal if someone happens to come to you with this kind of scenario. But yeah, people in the service industry and you're using their service, they definitely should be running their mouth about you if you're patronizing them. Okay. And if they're not, I would dig deeper to find out why. And they may possibly needs to get replaced. What more can I say? Service providers should be decent sources of lead generation for your business.
Sup everyone, hopefully you're enjoying the material that you're watching right now at this moment. Most people in today's world want to make money on their own terms. They also want the standard American dream that we've all been sold. For the most part, that entails getting a house, setting yourself up for retirement, and having a decent investment portfolio. That's cool and all, but have you ever asked the question, why exactly is there support to have all that stuff as an employee, but not as someone who's a freelancer, a business owner, or someone who's self-employed? I've asked that same question too. That's why I've decided to start the Self-Made Business Academy. Unfortunately, when you decide to go into business for yourself, there's not as many resources that I would like to see helping you facilitate that transition. We often have so many questions such as, how are we going to get our leads for business? How does marketing work? And what are the tactics and strategies that would work best for my personality type? And finally, while most people would desire to get a house, the process for qualifying for a mortgage for a house or even a higher tier apartment in the middle of downtown is different for someone who is self-employed versus someone who works a job. If you want support through all these endeavors and more, I would encourage you to join the Self-Made Business Academy. By joining the Self-Made Business Academy Pro Group, you'll get access to all current existing courses as well as future ones, access to our PDF library and frameworks, workshop replays, and all playbooks. In addition to this, you'll be able to join our weekly office hours where you'll get to talk to me about some of the issues you may be facing as a self-employed person once per week. You'll also get access to live webinar training events and invites to in-person meetups if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and early access to new products. So if you've left the 9-to-5 or you aspire to leave the 9-to-5 one day and you want to know not only how to survive in this world of being self-employed but also thrive in the process, join the Self-Made Business Academy today. Click the link in the description to get started. Now, let's get back to the broadcast.
Next, I want to say this is kind of an extension of the service provider one, but it's just people in your field. The only difference is it's going to be narrowed down to whatever you're doing. So I know other video editors, okay? And whatever you're doing, you need to know other people in that field. Reason being is that other people in your field, they can get too busy and they may have to actually turn down customers because they don't have the time. One thing about being a service provider is there's only so many hours in a day. Sometimes you just might be too swamped. You can't get them in. This is a good problem to have, right? But where does that customer end up going if they can't get them in? Well, you can be the person they send them to if you establish that relationship. But you have to know them in order for this to work. And this goes both ways. Let's say you get too swamped and you can't take on new clients temporarily. You got to have somewhere to send these customers to, someone that you can vouch for. And if y'all remember what we talked about this season, you do know that this can be a referral program. Set something up with people in your field. And if you send people their way, they'll pay you something. So that's another source of income. We talked about it earlier in the season, so I'm not going to go heavy into it. But y'all know that that's an untapped potential financial market. I'll just say that's an untapped way of making money. I didn't have to phrase it like that. But yeah, so Google Forms and then type in whatever service you have. So Forms for video editors in like the Dallas-Fort Worth area or something like that. And you'll be able to find these groups online that people in your trade or service kind of are congregating in and just talking to. And that could be a great place to meet more people in your field, especially Facebook groups. You might end up contributing to a discussion and you agree with someone and you just add them as a friend on Facebook. And keep a record of people that you have contact with in your niche. You can use Google Spreadsheet because when it comes to referring someone to them, you want to have their information. But the same also goes in return. I would actually just give them your information at some point. They don't have to reciprocate, but if they have your number, this is when you might get a random call and then, oh, well, I needed this service done, but Joe is busy right now, but he referred me to you. Awesome, right? And the last one we're going to cover today, so this will be number 5. I just have miscellaneous purchases. The best example I can give of this is if you go into a flea market, or like somewhere that has vendors, and you buy something, these would be people that could be great lead generation too. At the very least, they may be interested in your product or service. In fact, this kind of reminds me of when I was looking for a sponsor for the Veggie Outers newsletter, and there's this event called Vegan Fest, or no, it's called Veg Fest. And I saw this vendor that was selling like these vegan protein powders that didn't have any soy, any gluten, like nothing like that. It is made from like high protein herbs. I thought it was pretty interesting, so I went up and talked to the guy. And after we got done talking, I told him about the Veggie Outers and what we do, and we're looking for sponsors, and something that you have right now could potentially be a great product that the Veggie Outers would be interested in. Like, would you be interested in talking more about this, tomorrow? And he was, so we ended up talking about it that following Sunday. That's actually a great example of that. He was actually a good lead for me for the newsletter, and vice versa. I'm a good lead for him because he has a product that is directly targeting a group that I'm running. So that's a good example of that. But even outside of that, if you build enough rapport with someone in the vendor space and y'all exchange information, especially if you have a service that's kind of complementary to what they're doing, vendors can actually be chatty people. And they usually have good quality conversations in between, like when it's not busy at an event. Now, when it's busy, they can only give a customer so much time before they have to move on to the next one. But in between, like during the slow periods, they're usually pretty chatty people. I mean, they can either chat with people or just sit there at their vendor booth looking bored as hell. It's pretty simple. They're going to be talking to people, especially if there's more than one person at the booth. Like I used to do this back when I was heavy in network marketing and total life changes when I had a booth set up. I would have someone on my team sit there, and I would go and be talking to people, warming them up, and bringing them to the table. And then we would switch. Like I've been out there interacting with people for like an hour. So now it's my turn to sit here and run the table while you get out there and talk to people. So vendors can be a great source of lead generation, provided they know who you are and they have your information. And especially if they're in some kind of adjacent industry to yours, it could benefit them to pass on your information to someone. Or if their industry isn't related at all, that means you're not a competitor. So it's not going to hurt for them to pass on your information. So yeah, the miscellaneous purchases, don't sleep on that. That can be a good source of lead generation too. But that covers the 5 ways of generating leads in person that's very underrated in my opinion. Yeah, so that's plenty of material for y'all to get out there and just make some changes and start generating more leads. Then use the information we talked about this season to go ahead and sell them on your product or your service. But that does it for this episode. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. And of course, don't forget to subscribe if you're new. And feel free to drop us a rating or review if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I will catch y'all in the next video, podcast, live stream, whatever you want to call these. I'll just go ahead and go with podcasts. And be safe, be profitable, everyone. I'll see y'all in the next episode. Peace out.
This episode may be over, but your hustling journey has just started. Visit thesidehustlersociety.com to access all links and resources mentioned in the show that will help you on your hustler's journey.